What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode with your boy Phrankleen and
Is Mrs.
Victoria. Right, on this topic, this one is an audio session. It's called Raising Children, the Good, Bad, and Ugly. And another episode of Say It Like It Is. Okay, so Victoria, what do you think about the goods of raising children in should we say in a marriage?
Yeah, it's a beautiful experience for a woman, to be honest.
Right.
Having a baby growing inside of you. You experience the baby from the
Right.
moment it's conceived. When you see the baby, there's so much love that
From the moment the man destroys the sugar
Will
walls.
you let me just finish?
From the moment daddy baby.
Can we get this going?
Okay, yeah, go on. From the moment daddy tears down the garden. Right, I'm sorry. Yeah, crack on.
Right, are you ready?
Yes, I am. I'm ready. What's up? What do you mean, am I ready?
Okay. I think it's beautiful. From the moment that child is born, there's
Right.
this love that you just cannot explain. It's love immeasurable, and it's so beautiful to see that a human being, a fusion of you and your husband or your partner, is being born.
Right.
It's beautiful to see.
So
You?
for me, it's seeing, like you rightly said, seeing the part of you and your loved one growing, coming to fruition, I think is amazing. Having a blend of characters comprising of you and your partner, and also, of course, as the child grows and of themselves, right?
Yeah.
So all this form, part of the good of raising children is that, it turn out to be an improved, I think as parents, we want them to be an improved version of us, don't we?
Oh, definitely. You want to give them the best. You watch them from the first smile to the first time they take the first steps.
Right.
To the first time they start to say something, mommy, daddy. It's just so much love that you see someone depending on you, and
Right.
everything that you're doing is making sure that they grow to be a better person of you.
Absolutely.
A better version of you.
Right. So you pretty much want them to be an improved version of you.
Correct.
I want them to have their goals achieved with tremendous success.
Definitely.
But would you agree that I think one of the best gifts we can give to children, regardless of having investments, real estate, blah, 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 yeah, all that is amazing. But what do you think about sound moral upbringing?
Oh, that's the best gift you can give your children.
Good.
To be a better person, to not be a self-entitled
Prick.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Self-entitled. There's so many pricks about these days, man.
Oh, tell me about it.
And on a more serious note, because this is just views, okay? We live in a society where people have, what's that thing again? Where, and I understand moral upbringing is subjective.
Mm-hmm.
As we were saying earlier before we rolled the tape.
Mm-hmm.
Some, what's morally acceptable to me, in some other family, it might be a no-no to them.
It might be okay for a child to say to their mother, "You shut up, you
Yeah,
stupid."
we have certain demographics and certain races, and let's not go deep into that now, whereby some people, their kids can say, shut up, mom. And like from where I came from, that's like World War III. There'll be furniture flying in that room. You couldn't say shut up, mom.
You can only try that once.
Yeah, without traveling to heaven and come back in like 2-3 times again.
Your soul leaves your body when you...
Come on, man. Your ghost will be naked and leave your body. What?
Oh, dear.
So yeah, and yeah, but I think as long as you're not inflicting a child with emotional abuse
Of course not.
or any form of trauma or anything, I think the idea of moral upbringing, as long as it's, the sort of commonly relatable template within the society, respect,
Oh yes.
love, kindness. What else would you add to that?
And I think in achieving that is where both parents would have to work together. When
Right.
it comes to you and me, I would say you're the disciplinarian, and I'm I'm the softie. And I think it's a good balance in that the child gets a good balance of both. And it's not because you're disciplinarian doesn't mean they would not have a relationship with you in the sense that they can come to talk to you about issues.
I think the idea of being big and disciplined, and again to add to that, it's the idea of people tend to complement themselves.
Yes.
There's always one hot, one mild or cold, whereby it doesn't necessarily mean because you're mild means you're weak. It's not an indication that you are less of who you are. It's just, in fact, it's an amazing quality to have. You have strategists, you have people who are upfront, you'll always have a salesman, you have people who are analytical in the background, who would then amalgamate their skill sets. So I think if you bring that to the front end of any relationship or even the back end or whatever, that compliment is amazing. So whilst I may be, that kind of take no BS type of dude and stuff, it wouldn't make any sense to have a partner that's exactly the same.
Yeah.
Because then, you've had times when you'll have to call me to order. There are times when I'll have to say, oh, let's do this. Maybe I'll push a little harder. But then it's about striking that effective balance and being on the same page.
Fundamentally, it's whatever the situation is, there is just one voice from the parents.
Right.
Because that will confuse the child if mom's saying one thing
The idea of
and dad is saying something else.
Yes.
The child will be confused. The child would then, because kids are very clever, they
and
will then
manipulative.
Yes, because then they will look at, right, I can manipulate mom to get what I want, but I know I can't get to dad because
I
dad
can manipulate dad.
Yeah.
I can turn mom and dad against
each other
to
yes.
get what I want.
Yes.
And then usually that tend to leave cracks in your relationship,
Yes.
favoritism,
Yes.
and stuff like that. Okay.
One
I think,
voice. One voice.
one voice. I like that. The idea of one voice.
Yeah.
One voice, because togetherness. But then I like that though, to kind of expatiate on that a little bit. It's very common whereby one of the other parents might get a little blinded by emotional attachment to their kids,
Unfortunately,
and then
yeah.
favoritism kicks in, and then they do that at the detriment of their relationship with the other partner. So for example, it might be a mom, and this is not to bash moms out there. Moms are amazing. Moms do an amazing, priceless job. But sometimes when people allow themselves to get neck deep into, oh, I love my child, you love them too much, and then you display that love at the detriment of your partner, whereby the child then realizes that, oh, whatever I want, if I sneeze, mom will jump.
Yeah.
If I do this, even if dad puts his foot down, as long as mom's there, mom will go against him and mom will protect me. And they know how to then use that as a weapon. What do you think?
Yeah, that's not a very good thing. But I would also want to say that when that happens, most women do not know that they're actually doing the wrong thing. Remember when we had our first, I was a little bit too
Yeah.
but I had to take some realizations.
Yeah.
Sometimes women would do it. Yes, it's our first child. There's a different, like I said earlier, there's a different kind of love.
You're like a mother hen.
Yeah. So we have to make sure that we are not overdoing it, because we are more than likely to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we're more than likely to do that.
It's usually not intended to be malicious.
Exactly,
But
yeah.
that protective and nurturing nature of a mother. So if you're not careful, I suppose what you're getting at is there's a potential that might run into an overdrive, and then tend to sabotage things and have adverse effects on the child.
Yeah.
Right. So we're talking about the bad side of raising kids. Life could take a different direction. Things like death of a parent or one of the parents might potentially have adverse effects, whereby there's a combination of both parents, and if one suddenly passes on, it might have emotional effects.
It definitely does.
And
It
then if
definitely does.
one and it becomes like a one person's type of weight to pull, and there is trauma in the air, it's usually very hard to, you know, bounce back to normal. And then sometimes the children might, you know, depending on the age band, the environment, what sort of country they live in, what sort of other factors and stuff, they might veer left and, you know, turn to all sorts of things, substance abuse, or just get angry, and it just spiral out of control. So bad decisions, joining gangs, and, you know, abandoning education, and be mad at everybody. And, you know, trauma is not something to be trivialized. Or what do you think?
No, it's not. To be honest with you, it's hard for me to touch on this side. A child definitely will have experience, you know, like issues where they're trying to accept the fact that one parent is no longer there. So it's really hard, and I think the child would need help, like professional help, to try and get to understand what has just happened to the structure of the family.
But you know that if I delve a little deep, like in our society, in the black community, if I narrow it down, like in the Nigerian community, where most people are inherently, unbelievably, deeply, infuriatingly, if there's a word like that, religiously blind.
Oh God, are we going there now?
So, you know, to tie into what you're saying about, where people talk about, you know, you're talking about, get professional help. But we have people in our society where, unfortunately, because you're a product of your environment, usually people turn to religion, they turn to somebody trying to admonish you. There's nothing wrong with people trying to admonish you and stuff, but where you have religions, what happens is, the root cause of the problem is often abandoned. It's never properly addressed. So you have a young teenager, for example, a 13-year-old kid who's just pretty much growing, dipping his or her toes into the adult life. And then maybe dad dies abruptly or mom dies abruptly, and that kid becomes very angry. They're already facing adulthood in the not so distant future, and then there's nobody to help them gain closure, to help them hold the child's hand properly. I'm talking about the emotional aspects of things now, to usher them into the difficult world that's ahead of them. And unfortunately, we should slap them up with Jesus this, that this, and that this. Do you not agree that religion, and of course you're entitled to your views, you know my position on things. Certain persons will listen to this and say, "Oh, Phrankleen," because I think it's just done more damage than good. What do you think?
Unless if it's within the church setting, there is actually a profession.
God.
Unless there's a professional that can actually deal with the matter.
A profession within the African church setting, did you say? A professional.
Right, okay. If you say within the African setting, then I don't know.
Oh yes.
I don't know.
Sorry.
Stop it. My own take is the child is very important, or the children are very important.
Absolutely. 100.
They must get the help that they need, especially when a child's behavior changes. It's changed because of the trauma that they have experienced. And if we are not careful that is not dealt with, that child would just have possibly anger, take that anger to another level and start to do things that you as a parent or an outsider cannot explain. You're just looking at that child and you're thinking, oh, that child is a bad child, that child is just misbehaving. But the trauma that the child has experienced
and then
is
they
not
take
dealt
that
with.
into adulthood.
Exactly.
They potentially can turn to crime.
And
on like that. So things like divorce do have negative impacts on kids
as well,
and sometimes the kids might not be able to gain closure or have proper representation. It might be father figure missing, it might be mother. Sometimes if their biological mom is gone, the stepmom might not be as caring as their actual mom, and it has impact, right? Also, do you agree, what do you think about the idea of cultural and environmental impact, like growing up in the West, if you're an African? What do you think?
I think it's important that parents ensure in any way that they can make possible that their child understands their culture, be it the language, Be it the dressing, whatever it is.
Know their history, know their backgrounds.
Their backgrounds, their history,
know
where
their
they
own
come
story.
from. Know their story.
Don't depend on any other race to tell you about your own history, because nobody else will tell your own story.
Your child cannot adopt someone else's culture as their own. It's a parent's responsibility to ensure that they know who they are, what their history is telling them about who they are. It's very important.
Rather than hoping that someone else or some other person's outside of your race or your background or your lineage tells you your own story, which oftentimes are usually doctored, are usually subtracted, are usually suppressed. And these have adverse effects on a lot of people in our community. Don't you agree?
Yeah.
People with children. We have a lot of teenagers, we have a lot of people, young children in their 20s, early 20s, even some in their 30s who have absolutely no idea what their background is.
When was the last time you asked them? When was the last time you went back to
Nigeria,
Ghana, Nigeria? Oh,
Cameroon.
I don't know.
I haven't got a clue.
When I was a very little child.
Do you know what I mean?
I know nothing. That's not very good.
Yeah, and I think one of the fundamental, reasons why, unfortunately, most parents in the diaspora, and I say it with all due respect, have 1, 2, 3, 4 children is often deeply rooted in affordability.
Yeah.
Because when you have 1, 2, 3 children, number one thing is how many of the diasporan parents can afford to put 1, 2, 3, or even 4 children on a flight to and fro to Africa year in, year out. Because why? If you're earning or living off average of menial jobs, most people can't even afford it. So, and whilst they might be able to go themselves and stuff like that, maybe once a year or once every 3-4 years, it becomes absolutely impossible to take the children, and before you know it, the children are grown. They grow up where? In the West.
That's a shame.
This is one of the harsh realities of our communities, where I remember talking to someone recently, a lady who is now 32, and she said that she remembers vividly when her dad travels back home to Ghana and all that. There's 4 siblings. She's got 3 other siblings, 4 of them.
Okay.
And so I asked her, so why didn't your dad? He said, oh, when they were younger, dad took their firstborn, who is our older sister, to Ghana, I think once. And I said, why didn't your dad take you? And she said, it's not because he did it maliciously, but he himself and mom couldn't afford to. And before you blink your eyes, the kids are grown.
Yeah.
So, and the danger is, you have a grown-up in your 20s who know absolutely nothing about the Ghanaian history, who knows nothing about their culture, who knows. Another thing is, we're raising children. We're talking about the West now because we live in the West, where people raise kids for example, you're Nigerian, you're Yoruba, as an example, and your children can't speak Yoruba language.
I think that's wrong. That is wrong.
And they have full-blown British accent.
That's wrong.
On software, and they can't even say in Yoruba. They don't understand how to greet you in Yoruba. They know nothing. And you find out this is a 30-year-old geezer who knows nothing about his roots, who can't speak his mother tongue.
Do you know that English is universal? They will learn English. They'll pick up English very quickly.
Absolutely.
Very, very quickly.
Absolutely.
Your language is more important than the English language.
Absolutely.
The English will come. We speak English all around the world.
They will acclimatize. They already live in an environment. They probably even speak more than their dad. Because dad will be saying things, blowing Uncle London type of grammar. And
oh goodness.
Yeah, because they're already in the system where the accent flows naturally.
Yeah.
The pronunciations flow naturally.
They'll pick up English.
The grammatical understanding flows. It comes with it naturally. Yeah. So one of the best things we can do is to help our children to understand
with the language. Yes.
Our local dialect. To look at the Asians, look at the Pakistanis, look at the Indians, look at the Bangladeshi, look at them in their communities. A bulk of them, they don't joke with their traditions. You meet them in the offices, they will speak properly. Oh, good morning, Phrankleen. Oh, did you have a nice weekend? Did you have a nice bank holiday? Oh, did you have a nice holiday? Oh, how was the weekend? How's your family doing? How are your children doing? They will talk to you properly. As soon as they take a right turn, they're talking to their members of their family, they switch their dialect because they are raised with it.
Yeah.
Another thing about the bad side of raising children, flying out the nest without cultural ties or grounded, which is what we were saying earlier. Yeah, because a lot of those children, they adopt the Western culture, don't they? And then you have the African parent, when you're grey and old, you're elderly, will tend to get frustrated.
Do you know some African parents actually prefer that their children are speaking Fone?
Fone, yeah.
They're actually speaking.
If you're not Nigerian, or you're wondering what we mean by Fone, it's like a slang that we use
the British
locally.
Accent.
It's basically, your child or your children speaking American accent or British accent and stuff. So they're very articulate, pretty much.
Yeah.
So it's called Fone. Fone is like, came out of the word phonetics, right? But it's something we use locally within the African community. Like, you're speaking Fone. It's like, you're speaking English and all that stuff, which is a good thing if you're articulate, but they have absolutely no understanding
of their own mother tongue.
Nope. And then they distance themselves when they become adults. They don't want to know. So what do? They adopt the British culture or the American culture, whatever comes to them. So the ugly side of raising children, I've got down, they turn out selfish.
Well,
they can potentially turn out selfish.
That's scary.
Whereby parents have actually, paid through their nose, labored, made all sorts of sacrifices for them, and some children just turn out to be right bastards. Fact.
Yeah.
They just look at the recent story about Brian McKnight.
Self-entitled.
Look at Brian McKnight and his children that was in the news lately.
Yeah.
Whereby he's got a 30-year-old and a 27-year-old that he's given a good life to, and one of them actually wished he was dead.
Basically, in some words.
So that they can inherit, his wealth and stuff. So it often happens, they can't wait to take over your wealth. Things like abandonment in your old age. And one of the dark sides, or let's say terrible sides of living in the West, is you're more than likely going to end up in a home if you end up living by yourself when you're elderly. Because why? Most people live averagely. They might not have enough room, ability to cater for mom and dad and stuff. So when you're old, you got dementia, you got bad joints, or you can't really bend over again. They might just chuck you into the home. They might be too busy. They might move from England to Australia. Mom, I want to relocate to China. Dad, I'm going to Malaysia to settle down. And you're by yourself.
Unfortunately, you can't stop them. They've got to live their lives as well. But then you don't want a selfish child that just forgets you.
Absolutely. I think it stems out of, if you raise the children with proper cultural values, whereby some values are instilled, values of being kind.
Yeah.
They understand, they are nurturing. All of those things are embedded in their formative years.
Yeah.
You will kind of sort of benefit from that when you start to get old and grey. I mean, it's just my view. Parents, so I said this as well on a closing note. Parents shouldn't have a sense of entitlement.
Oh gosh.
You should work and save for your retirement so as not to be disappointed, because again, some parents might be raising their children with an ulterior motive that, if I raise them, I can claw back on my investment and stuff. You know what? Those children didn't have to be born.
Just like many odd years ago, let me throw this in.
Right, go on.
You know where our grandfathers and great-grandfathers marry many wives?
Yeah.
And they bear many children, and those children work on the farm.
Yeah, they use them. It's a form of slavery. They hear like for example, fun fact, my paternal grandfather married 22 wives.
God damn.
Yeah, that dude, man.
How did he go around?
Oh my God. I'm gonna have to ask my dad. He married 22 wives, but on a more serious note, in addition to what you said, the premise of that was they would, that was a top level misogyny.
Oh gosh.
They enslaved the wives. Because my dad served his dad. He grew up on the farm in Osun State, Elisha, Nigeria, and then dad traveled out later. He just broke out of the old crazy polygamy complexity, and then he traveled out to France, Paris and all that, left the country. And it's usually a lot of toxicity in the polygamous family.
Oh gosh.
So like you were saying, the premise of them marrying a lot of those wives It's not because they love them. They use them on their farms to raise their livestock, to pretty much run, their farm business on a daily basis at minimal costs, pretty much.
Yeah.
So yeah, parents, work hard. Don't forget to look after yourself.
Yeah.
Save money for your old age, for your retirement, so that you're not disappointed. So your children decide to, go in another direction. You can cater for yourself when you're old and grey. What do you think?
Hell yeah.
So yeah, that's our view on raising children. Let's keep the conversation going on below. It's your boy Phrankleen. Yeah, I'm just hanging out with the missus tonight. So
I'm gonna pee myself.
Right. Thank you for listening. And this is impromptu. I actually just said to Victoria, let's talk about some. Okay. And yeah, definitely catch you in the next one. If you like what I'm about on the channel, show your love, like, subscribe, and look around my channel. We'll definitely catch you in the next one. What do you say, Victoria?
Peace and love.
Peace and love. Bye now. Bye.